I never thought the two people I trusted most would destroy me. Sarah and I had been married for 15 years. We met in college. She was the girl with the bright laugh who could light up any room, and I was the idiot who fell for her the moment. She smiled at me. We built a life together. 2 kids, a house with a white picket fence, family vacations, inside jokes. The kind of love you think is unbreakable. And then there was him. Jake. My brother. Not by blood, but by everything else. We grew up next door to each other, became inseparable. He was the best man at my wedding, the godfather to my kids. If I needed someone to bury a body, he'd be the first call I made. That's why it hurt so much when I realized he was the one holding the knife against my back. It started with little things. Sarah would mention, "Oh, Jake stopped by today," or "We grabbed coffee while you were at work." I didn't think anything of it. Why would I? He was family. But then the texts got more frequent. She'd smile at her phone in a way she hadn't smiled at me in months. Jake, who used to call me every weekend to hang out, suddenly became busy. The first real crack came when I came home early one day. Sarah's car was in the driveway, but she wasn't answering her phone. The house was quiet, too quiet. Then I heard it. Laughter. His laugh, coming from our bedroom. My stomach dropped. My hands went cold. I told myself I was imagining things, that there was some innocent explanation. Maybe they were watching a movie. Maybe they were just talking. But then I pushed the door open, and there they were, my wife, my brother. Her fingers tangled in his hair, his hands on her waist, the way they fit together, like they'd done this before, like they belonged together. I didn't scream. I didn't yell. I just stood there, frozen, watching my entire life collapse in front of me. Sarah's head snapped up. Her eyes met mine, wide, guilty, terrified. Jake turned, and for the first time in my life, I saw fear in his eyes. Not regret, not shame, fear, because he knew what this meant. I didn't say a word. I just turned and walked out. Sarah called. After me, her voice breaking. "Mike, wait, please." But I was already gone. I drove for hours that night. No destination. Just the road, the hum of the engine, and the white noise of my own thoughts screaming in my head. How long had this been going on? How could they do this to me? Was our entire marriage a lie? My phone buzzed nonstop, Sarah calling, texting, pleading. Jake's name flashed on the screen once, then never again. Coward. I finally pulled over at some rundown motel off the highway. The room smelled like cigarettes and bleach. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my wedding ring, wondering how something that had once felt so solid could now feel like a shackle. I should have been crying, screaming, breaking things. But all I felt was numb. Then my phone rang again. Wasn't Sarah this time. It was my daughter, Emily. "Dad, where are you?" "Mom's crying. She says you left." Her small voice cracked something inside me. What the hell was I doing? I couldn't run. Not from this. Not from them. So I went home. Sarah was sitting on the couch, her face streaked with tears. The second I walked in, she stood up, her hands shaking. "Mike, How long?" My voice was quiet. "Dead." She swallowed. 3 months. 3 months. 12. Weekends. Countless lies. Was it just him? She flinched. "Yes, God, Mike, it was a mistake." "A mistake." I laughed, but it came out hollow. "You don't accidentally fuck my best friend in our bed, Sarah." She crumpled. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did." "Bullshit." She looked up at me then, her eyes red and raw. "Do you want me to beg?" "Because I will. I'll get on my knees right now. I'll do anything." "Where's Jake?" She hesitated. "I don't know. He left after you did." "Of course he did." I turned away, heading for the bedroom. "Mike, please." "I'm not leaving," I said, my back to her. "But I'm not sleeping next to you tonight." I locked myself in the guest room and finally let myself break. The next morning, I called Jake. He answered on the first ring, like he'd been waiting. "Mike, meet me at the park. The one we used to go to as kids. Listen, man, No, you don't get to talk. You show up, or you never see me again. I hung up before he could respond. He was already there when I arrived, pacing, under the old oak tree where we'd carved our initials 20 years ago. For a second, I saw us as kids, two stupid boys who swore they'd always have each other's backs. Now I wanted to put my fist through his face. You got something to say? I asked. Jake ran a hand through his hair. I'm sorry. That's it? What else do you want me to say? His voice cracked. I fucked up. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. I stepped closer. With my wife. In my house. He didn't deny it. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just said, "You're dead to me." And I walked away. That night, Sarah and I sat at the kitchen table, the silence between us suffocating. "What happens now?" she whispered. I looked at her, the woman I'd loved for half my life, and realized I didn't know the answer. We moved around each other like ghosts, speaking only when necessary. The kids need picked up at 3. I paid the electric bill. Empty words filling the silence where love used to be. Then came the nightmares. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. sweating, my heart pounding. The image of them together burned behind my eyelids. Some nights I'd drive to Jake's apartment and sit outside in my car, just staring at his dark windows, wondering if he was sleeping peacefully while my life was in ruins. One of those nights, I saw a silhouette move past his bedroom window. Female. Not Sarah. This one was taller, her hair shorter, so he'd already moved on. I laughed until my throat hurt. 2 weeks after D-Day, Discovery Day, as the internet calls it, Sarah broke the silence. "We need to talk," she said, standing in the doorway of my home office. I didn't look up from my laptop. About what? About us. About what happens next. I finally met her gaze. "What do you want to happen, Sarah?" She twisted her wedding ring around her finger, a nervous habit I'd always found endearing. Now it just made me sick. "I want to fix this," she whispered. "You can't. We can try." I slammed my laptop shut. "How? How do we come back from this? You didn't just cheat on me. You did it with my brother, my best friend since we were kids. That's not a mistake, Sarah. That's a nuclear bomb." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I know. God, Mike. I know. But we have kids. We have 15 years. Doesn't that mean anything?" I looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time, I didn't see the woman I fell in love with. I saw a stranger. "I don't know," I said honestly. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called a divorce lawyer. The consultation was clinical, cold. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman, in her 50s, laid out my options like she was reading a grocery list. "Given the infidelity, you'd likely get primary custody. The house is marital property, but..." I stopped listening. This was really happening. That afternoon, I found Sarah crying in the laundry room, clutching one of Jake's old t-shirts that had somehow ended up in our wash. When she saw me, she shoved it away like it was on fire. I didn't realize it was still... I picked up the shirt. It was the one Jake had left here after helping me move furniture months ago. The one he'd been wearing the last time I'd seen him before. Everything. Without a word, I took it outside and burned it in the backyard fire pit. Sarah watched from the window, her reflection blurred by tears. That night, I sat my kids down. Emily, 10, and Noah, 7. "Dad and Mom are going through some stuff," I said carefully. "We both love you so much, but we might live in different places for a while." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Are you getting divorced?" The word hit me like a punch. "We don't know yet, sweetheart." Noah, too young to fully understand, just hugged me tight. "I love you, Daddy." I held on to him like he was the only thing keeping me from drowning. Later, I found Sarah packing a suitcase. "I'm going to stay with my sister for a few days," she said quietly. "The kids, they should stay here, with you." I nodded. At the door, she hesitated. "Mike, do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me?" I thought about it. "I don't know," I said again. And that was the truth. The first month of separation was the hardest. Sarah moved into her sister's apartment across town. The kids split their time between us, their backpacks stuffed with clothes and stuffed animals as they shuffled between two broken halves of what used to be a home. Every time I buckled them into the car for the drive to Sarah's, Emily would ask in a small voice, "When are you and Mom going to live together again?" I never had an answer. Meanwhile, Jake had vanished. No calls, no texts, just radio silence. Mutual friends told me he'd taken a sudden leave of absence from work and left town. Coward. Part of me wanted to hunt him down and scream in his face. The other part never wanted to see him again. Then, one rainy Tuesday, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "We need to talk. It's about Sarah. Meet me at Marino's Diner. 7 p.m. I knew who it was, before I even asked. Jake looked like hell. His usual cocky grin was gone, replaced by dark circles under his eyes and a gauntness to his face that made him look 10 years older. He sat hunched in the back booth of the diner, a cold cup of coffee in front of him. I slid into the seat across from him. "You've got 5 minutes." He didn't waste time. "Sarah's pregnant." The world tilted. "What?" "She just told me. She's 8 weeks along." His hands shook around his coffee mug. It's mine, Mike." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The diner noises, the clatter of plates, the murmur of conversations, faded into white noise. "You're sure?" My voice didn't sound like mine. "Timeline adds up." He let out a hollow laugh. "Guess that's one way to find out if our friendship's really dead, huh?" I stood up so fast the table rattled. "Go to hell!" "Mike, wait." But I was already out the door. I drove straight to Sarah's sister's apartment. She opened the door in sweatpants and one of my old college hoodies, the one she'd always steal because it smelled like me. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "Mike?" Her eyes widened when she saw my face. "What's wrong? Are you pregnant?" She went pale. That was all the answer I needed. We sat on her sister's lumpy couch, the weight of the truth pressing down on us. "I just found out yesterday," she whispered. "I was going to tell you, I just didn't know how." "Is it his?" She flinched. "Yes." I put my head in my hands. "Jesus Christ, Sarah. I know. I know." She was crying now, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry, Mike. For everything." I wanted to hate her. Wanted to scream, to break something, to walk out and never look back, but all I felt was tired. "What do you want to do?" I asked finally. She wiped her eyes. "I don't know. I thought about, not keeping it." "Do you want that?" "I don't know." She let out a shuddering breath. "It's a baby, Mike. But it's also a reminder." I finished quietly. She nodded, fresh tears spilling over. I reached for her hand without thinking, an old habit, then stopped myself halfway. We both froze, the almost touch hanging between us like a question neither of us could answer. That night, I lay awake in my empty bed, staring at the ceiling. Sarah was pregnant with Jake's child. My best friend's baby was growing inside my wife. The thought made me want to vomit. But beneath the rage, beneath the betrayal, there was something else. Something worse. I still loved her. And that hurt more than anything. The ultrasound appointment was on a Thursday. Sarah asked me to come. "I know I have no right," she'd said over the phone, her voice thin and brittle. "But I can't do this alone." I shouldn't have gone. But at 8:15 a.m., I found myself in the waiting room of her OB-GYN, gripping a cup of terrible coffee while heavily pregnant women glanced curiously at the tense, separated couple. When the nurse called Sarah's name, she reached for my hand instinctively, then caught herself. The hesitation lasted only a second, but it shattered something in me all over again. The technician's voice was too cheerful for the room. "And there's your little peanut. Strong heartbeat at 158 BPM. On the grainy black and white screen, a tiny, bean-shaped blur pulsed with life. My brother's child. Sarah was crying silently, her knuckles white where they gripped the exam table. I realized with sudden, brutal clarity that this baby, regardless of who the father was, would always be my children's sibling. Our families were bound together now, no matter what. Afterward, in the parking lot, Sarah turned to me with red-rimmed eyes. "I'm keeping it," I nodded. I'd known before we even walked into that office. "What does Jake say?" The name tasted like poison. She looked down at her shoes. "He says he'll support whatever I decide." Of course he did. Classic Jake, never taking a real stand, always floating above the consequences. "Do you love him?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. Sarah's head snapped up. "No. God, no. It was never about that." "Then why?" My voice broke. "Why him? Why like this?" For the first time since D-Day, anger flashed across her face. "You really want to know? Because you were never present, Mike. You were always at work, or distracted, or just gone. And Jake was there. It was stupid and selfish, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But that's the truth." The words hit like a physical blow. Because the worst part? She wasn't wrong. The divorce papers arrived the next week. Sarah signed them without argument. We agreed on 50-50 custody, the house going to me, for the kids' stability. No alimony. Clean. Simple. Until it wasn't. "Jake wants to be at the birth," Sarah told me during one of our painfully civil custody exchanges in the driveway. I nearly dropped Noah's overnight bag. "You're kidding. He's the father, Mike. And I'm the husband." The words exploded out of me. "Or did you forget that part when you were fucking him in our bed?" Emily, waiting in the car, looked up sharply at the shout. Sarah's face went pale. "You're right," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I'll figure it out." As she walked away, I realized with dull horror that this was our life now. Endless negotiations over school plays and soccer games and births. That should have been ours together. The night before the divorce was finalized, I drove to Jake's new apartment, the one he'd rented after slinking back to town. He opened the door looking like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Mike." I didn't punch him. Didn't even raise my voice. "You hurt my kids," I said quietly. "That's the one thing I can't forgive." For the first time in our lives, Jake had nothing clever to say. The judge pronounced us divorced on a Tuesday morning. Afterward, Sarah hesitated outside the courthouse, the autumn wind tugging at her coat. "Do you think someday we could be friends?" I looked at the woman who'd been my entire world for half my life, who'd held my hand through job losses and miscarriages, and the births of our children, who'd shattered my trust in ways I'd never recover from. "I don't know," I said for the third and final time. Then I walked away. Epilogue. 6 months later, I took the kids to meet their new baby brother. Sarah looked exhausted but radiant, the newborn curled against her chest. Jake stood awkwardly in the corner, eyes darting between me and his son like he was waiting for an explosion. Emily, ever perceptive, whispered, "He looks like Uncle Jake, doesn't he?" Noah, blissfully unaware, just poked the baby's tiny foot and giggled. And me, I held my ex-wife's child, my brother's son, my kid's sibling, and felt nothing. No rage, no pain. Just a quiet sort of grief for the family we might have had. "He's beautiful," I said honestly. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for being here." I didn't stay long, but as I buckled the kids into the car, Emily asked, "Dad, are we still a family?" I kissed her forehead. "Just a different kind, sweetheart. And maybe, someday, that would be enough." What would you have done in Mike's place? Could you have found forgiveness? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. And remember, some breaks can't be fixed, but life moves forward anyway.